unlike his cabinet of trade union stooges, CV embellishers, and an actual fraudster. None of them have ever run a business. Why won't he listen to business who are saying his budget is catastrophic?
The country is being run by a bunch of inept associates who have no thought around what they're doing.
So Labour won't change anything. The Prime Minister himself once said that there is a racist undercurrent which permeates all immigration law. And of course, he and his cabinet fought against the end of free movement. They scrapped the Rwanda deterrent before it had even started.
Will Starmer be able to outlive Kemi continuous assaults, or is his government approximately to conclusion?
Is a government that is run by people who try and use the legal system to hide. They try and use rules and regulations to duck from the job that they're supposed to be doing.
Unexpectedly standing on a slope of broken guarantees, Labour is on borrow time, and Starmer's most recent botch will conclusion. Everything.
Speaker, the Prime Minister talks about immigration. I think it's probably a good time to remind him that he was the one writing letters asking us not to deport foreign criminals. And he and his party voted against every single measure that we put in place to try and limit immigration.
Starmer messed up the minute he begun talking approximately movement, imagining to be an all-noble savior, whereas effectively messing things up, Advance Kemi anticipated this. And, in reality, as of now, specified Starmer's eagerly in her discourse. Prior, things promptly begin warming up, and Kemi pushes STA to the point of a mental breakdown, particularly almost his previous transport secretary, who turned out to be the most exceedingly bad conceivable individual to contract. Truly, you wouldn't accept how awful Labour is when it comes to contracting individuals.
The Prime Minister knowingly appointed a convicted fraudster to be his transport secretary. What was he thinking?
Mr. Speaker, the previous Transport Secretary was right when further information came forward to resign. What a marked contrast to behaviour in the last 14 years.
Starmer was cleared out, stunned. He had no thought what to do and instantly turned to his ordinary strategies, giving a wishy-washy reply. Starmer anticipated Kemi and everybody else to fair disregard, almost his contracting botch truly. Not a great see. When the Prime Serve is designating fakes, he attempted to avoid the questions and alter the subject, but Softy isn't getting off the snare so easily. Kemi continues to totally mortify him within the whole Parliament, whereas Starmer bumbles around, attempting to spare himself.
Mr. Speaker, he's obfuscating, but I'm going to keep him on the topic. He owes the House an explanation. He said that the former Transport Secretary was only asked to resign after further information came to light.
What is that?
What was that further information?
Exactly.
I'm not going to disclose private conversations.
Makes you ponder what other privileged insights have Labour been stowing away that they're so ashamed of revealing in truth. A few exceptionally curiously things around the Southport case have surfaced. That might be the ultimate straw for ST's acquiescence. Kemi has made her point Starmer contracted a extortion, and as it were, after the full thing was uncovered, did he make that individual leave? It appears that Softy is being delicate on ethics and keenness as well.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not asking about migration, I'm asking about the former Transport Secretary. He never answers any questions. He never answers any questions. And it looks like he didn't ask his Transport Secretary any questions either. The truth is, he appointed a person convicted of fraud to the cabinet. The first thing she did was bung hundreds of millions of pounds in pay rises to her trade union friends. Wasn't this a fraud on the British people?
Presently another endeavor at avoidance by Starmer, and as regular, he gets closed down instantly. The more you see into the case, the more concerning it gets. The expansion busting. Pay. Rises that this government gave to the unions was as of now concerning. But seeing that a fraudster N was involved only makes the matter more regrettable. Starmer's traps of running absent are not working. So will he at long last stand his ground and bargain with the mess he has made? Considering how frightened he is, that may be as well. Much to inquire for.
He can try and change the topic as much as he likes, but the public are watching. He owes them an explanation. The country needs conviction politicians, not politicians with convictions. Now on to an even bigger fraud. On to an even bigger fraud, the budget. Last week, the Prime Minister failed to repeat the Chancellor's pledge of no more borrowing and no more taxes. It is obvious that they are coming back for more.
The Open is requesting trustworthiness, straightforwardness, and honest to goodness. Clarifications. All of these things are what Starmer campaigned for amid the races, and it appears that he, as it were, did so to pick up votes so distant he has shown no crave to really provide on the numerous guarantees he made. Maybe the greatest extortion is the modern budget Starmer and Rachel Reeves cooked up, and it, as it were, uncovered them as bumbling. Shockingly for them, they can't fiddle with the rules to induce absent with this.
Mr. Speaker, I saw the OECD report, and what it said was that they will be coming back for more taxes. And I think the whole House would have heard him fail to repeat his own pledge. He can't even repeat the pledges that he made just a few weeks ago. We are here to stop him from damaging the economy, and that is why
The harm to the economy has as of now been done. The country is reeling from the results that Starmer's approaches will bring, judging by how things are going. The economy will end up a chaotic mess in case this parcel is cleared out free to do anything they need for self-evident reasons. We cannot permit that. Basically, since why would anybody believe Labour after all those broken vows and untrustworthiness? Indeed, Starmer can't keep in mind the guarantees he made to the Open.
Mr. Speaker, they are laughing the same way they all laughed during the budget when they talked about raising NI. They have no idea what people out there are dealing with. And that is why yesterday we voted against his damaging jobs tax. Even former supporters, Chef Tom Carriage, who endorsed Labour at the election, said that the budget was catastrophic. He built a real business employing young people, unlike his cabinet of trade union stooges, CV embellishers, and an actual fraudster. None of them have
On the off chance that they're all attempting to exceed each other in terms of false reverence. Starmer has been a fantastic disappointment for this country, and the stats, as it were, demonstrate this point. Starmerism at its crest make 1 billion guarantees, and after that fall flat to convey on each and each single one of them they mislead, win the races, and made all those assumed promises. Starmer's declaration is nothing but a joke at this point, and it's clear that no one is cheerful with him any longer. Fair see at the state of migration, it's a shocking mess, and the reality of the matter is much more appealing. Starmer quickly hopped on the temporary fad to require the credit for bringing down movement begins. The truth is he didn't.
Mr. Speaker, the fact is the Prime Minister has discarded his own Labour leadership promises. He's dropped the 5 missions he said would define his government. He's ditched his pledge to make Britain the fastest growing economy in the G7. We left office with UK the fastest growing economy in the G7. And business is saying he has damaged the economy with his budget. Tomorrow he's going to have an emergency reset, Mr. Speaker, just 5 months into his premiership. But why should anyone believe a word he says?
Starmer has been a fantastic disappointment for this country, and the stats, as it were, demonstrate this point. Starmerism at its crest make 1 billion guarantees, and after that fall flat to convey on each and each single one of them they mislead, win the races, and made all those assumed promises. Starmer's declaration is nothing but a joke at this point, and it's clear that no one is cheerful with him any longer. Fair see at the state of migration, it's a shocking mess, and the reality of the matter is much more appealing.
Tomorrow, immigration figures will be released that should show a drop in net migration. This is because of the changes we made in the last year of the Conservative government. The figures we saw for 2023 were astonishing. They highlighted a big problem we must be honest about. Even if we see a decline in tomorrow's data, the fact is immigration, both legal and illegal, is too high.
Starmer quickly hopped on the temporary fad to require the credit for bringing down movement begins. The truth is he did no such thing, and it was the preservationists that made the essential changes to lower migration. And what did Starmer do? He instantly fixed all the advance by rejecting an obstruction arrangement. And presently he's being accused of altering the stats. There's a major issue with mass bringing in individuals into this nation, which might fare taking a toll, us our personality. Either way, you see it at migration is way as well tall, and our country cannot keep facilitating more people. It doesn't matter in case it's lawful or illicit movement. The individuals need this government of unadulterated daydream to induce a grasp.
Millions want to come here, but we as politicians have to do right by the citizens of this country before anyone else. Our country cannot sustain the numbers we have seen. We are reducing the quality of life for people already here because immigration is at a pace too fast to maintain public services, and at a rate where it is next to impossible to integrate those from radically different cultures.
Starmer has sold out the British Open and made it clear what he really stands for. Of course, everybody needs to come to the UK. Who wouldn't? It's a arrive of openings and prosperity. In any case, that does not cruel, that we keep permitting everybody in and have no checks and equalizations at all. Open administrations are within the canal, and Starmer is wobbling around with no clue on what to do. Migration has gotten to be an emergency, and Kemi totally mortified Starmer for his articulate inadequacy and conditioned hard of hearing.
First, if immigration is too quick, there is no integration. The ties that bind us start to fray. It doesn't matter whether you're massively for immigration or massively against it, without a shared national identity, our country will suffer. When people come here, they must buy into the values, customs, and institutions that attracted them here in the first place.
Behavior integration could be a non-negotiable for any country when it comes to movement. We Brits cherish our legacy and culture, and there ought to be no compromise on that. Once you let everybody in without appropriate foundation checks or assessments, what kind of a mess will it make the kind that Starmer is active cooking up right presently with his cherish for open borders, avoidance, and false reverence? There's a reason why the wrongdoing stats are so tall, and it's connected to migration. Individuals with vastly different societies and values ought to compromise and acknowledge British values, or they're welcome to take off.
Third, we can no longer be naive. It's nonsense that we have allowed a situation where judges deem safe countries to be unsafe, where loopholes are willfully exploited by opportunists, where the latest legal ruses and wheezes are sent around the world on social media. Now, as I have said, tomorrow's figures will likely show a reduction in net immigration, and no doubt the new government will try to take credit for that reduction.
Kemi was liberal in calling Starmer and his government gullible. She wouldn't be off base to totally bash them as great-for-nothing dead weight that are pulverizing this country. One unpleasant approach at a time. In any case, the point stands there our way as well. Numerous escape clauses within the movement laws, and on best of that, Labour has continuously restricted any strict laws against it. Not as it were, have they been voting against steps to lower migration. They've presently made the circumstance altogether more regrettable.
Labour may criticise our record on immigration, but remember, throughout the last 14 years, the Labour Party were urging us to relax controls on immigration. Even though those figures tomorrow are likely to be a start in the right direction, it's not enough. We remain a world away from where we need to be. Labour won't get us there. Under a Labour government, immigration will remain far too high. We are already seeing the signs.
Starmer was all up on his tall horse, taking credit for the brought-down measurements and accusing everything on the traditionalists. The individuals have had sufficient of these fault diversions, and one real, genuine alter. Starmer kept harrying on approximately how he'll settle the issue, but we have, however, to see any genuine arrange. It's been months since the modern government took office, and there's nothing to appear for it. It's like thoughtless, magnanimous zombies running the appear, and all we get could be an entirety part of nothing. We do not need steps within the right heading any longer. We need important advance.
So Labour won't change anything. The Prime Minister himself once said that there is a racist undercurrent which permeates all immigration law. And of course, he and his cabinet fought against the end of free movement. They scrapped the Rwanda deterrent before it had even started. And we are already seeing the inevitable result as more and more people cross the channel, with significantly more arriving than last year. Labour have no serious plan for ending illegal migration.
The numbers are through the roof, as compared to final year. The levels of migration are skemmy high and CH uncovered. What Starmer truly is, him and his Labour group have an evil arrange behind everything they're doing. The ideological liberal bowed that they have is driving to all these sad arrangements, and this is often nothing unused. Starmer continuously needed this, and one speedy see at his history is sufficient to tell us everything we ought to know approximately that the Tour is messed up, but the distinction is that they're legitimate sufficient to confess it.
The result of Labour's policies will be consistently high illegal immigration throughout this Parliament and insufficient action on legal migration. But we are not in government now. We are the opposition, and our role now is to hold the government to account. Our government's primary responsibility must be to its own citizens.
Recently, the inescapable mental breakdown comes not at all like Starmer and his Labour gang Kemi has in genuine point-by-point arranged to bring down immigration, but the address is will Starmer tune into her so distant he has as it were been avoiding and moving around the issue, and things are heaping on. None of this can be rocket science. It's a, or maybe straightforward approach which fair goes to appear that Labour seem have taken these steps at whatever point they needed. Tragically, they were as well. Active, getting freebies, and making your life hopeless. Make no botch. It's not fair migration that Starmer gets crushed on Kemi. Has harsher words for the financial mess he's been making.
In designing our detailed policies, we will put the following elements at the core. A strict numerical cap, with visas only for those who will make a substantial and clear overall contribution. A fully transparent approach, publishing all the data, so that for the first time, everyone can see the real costs and benefits of different types of migration. A reconsidered approach to citizenship and settlement, making the path to a British passport a privilege to be earned, not an automatic right.
The budget was genuinely uncommon. Rachel Reeves merits and Grant for coming up with a budget so unpleasant and harming that businesses are as of now dreading in financial collapse. All she did was raise a dozen more charges and fiddle the financial rules to permit herself the control to borrow. Indeed, more cash. That's right, the national obligation is around to go higher, and you'll have to be pay for it. We have lower wages, less development, lower living conditions, and tall levels of untrustworthiness from the Labour Party.
What Rachel Reeves did was extraordinary. Rishi Sunak gave a brilliant takedown of what they had said. They were dishonest during the election campaign. They have fiddled the fiscal rules to allow them to borrow more. And everything that they are doing is going to make life worse for business, for those on lower wages. They're going to make it terrible for farmers with their inheritance tax changes. And we are going to be very, very much poorer than we would have been under a Conservative government.
Were the Labour MPs snickering since they knew the budget was a dishonourable joke? Or were they snickering at the rest of us? One may say that they basically have no thought approximately the results that their ghastly budget will bring. But that's fair, despicable for a government. It's like we've given a bunch of little children the control to run the country. And it's no ponder that they're attempting to annihilate it.
It's because they don't understand how anything works. If you were in the chamber during that budget, you would have seen Labour MPs laughing when they announced that employers' NI. Once she said that, there was a gasp on our side of the house because we come from the private sector. We have worked, started businesses, worked in companies where you have to make a profit. It's not just the government paying for it. And we understood what that...
That I have been emphasizing almost the distinction between traditionalists and Labour. Everybody saw this coming. But we were credulous, sufficient to believe seats guarantees and give them the advantage of the question tragically. That didn't work out well for the nation's economy. Starmer has continuously had communist sensitivities, so it's no ponder that he abhors the wealthy and is shoveling as much cash as he can into open segment specialists.
It is cruel, but we knew that Labour were going to be like this. They indicated it with the VAT that they were putting on private schools, which is a tax on aspiration. This is now a tax on saving and wanting to look after your family. They do not know how to create growth. All they know is how to take money away from people. And that is one of the things that I have been emphasizing about the difference between Conservatives and Labour.
A budget that guarantees development will do anything, but that Rachel Reeves and Starmer have made a bad dream for the economy, and it's not long. Sometime recently, we begin seeing the results of it all. In truth, financial specialists are as of now hammering this government. This budget will scarcely bring a 1% development rate. The Tories left Starmer with one of the speediest developing economies within the G7, and he is around to crash it into the ground.
It's not going to work, and we delivered an economy that was the fastest growing in the G7. They have messed that up, but they have also created knock-on effects and unintended consequences that will become apparent as time shows. So if I'm leader of the Conservative Party, I'll be looking to see how we can reverse most of this, certainly reversing what we have done on inheritance tax, on what they have done on inheritance tax, certainly reversing what they have done on employers' NI, because I think it's probably just going to destroy.
The unions have Starmer wrapped around their fingers, and there's as of now verification of that. Whereas Starmer was active, clobbering us with charges he was giving expansion, busting pay rises to the unions. What does that tell you around the unpleasantly loose needs of this government? Retired people are solidifying, agriculturists are enduring, and Starmer still can't characterize what a working-class individual is.
It is going to be worse. The unions are back. I saw it when I was in the Department of Business and Trade. We kept them back. They've been flexing their muscles, knowing that a Labour government was coming in. And now what we are seeing is a government that takes all of its advice from unions, and that is not going to help the economy. It's not going to help working people. And by that, we know what working people are, real working people, not just the very tiny definition that Labour seem to think exists.
Kemi keeps pummeling Starmer into the ground, and she's not off base. Starmer is without a doubt shaken. It's as it were natural, given how very actually everybody is turning against Arma. The endorsement evaluations are within the canal. Agriculturists are in shock millions, are marking petitions to boot him out of government. Things are not looking great for sure. It appears that Starmer and his Labour pack are on borrowed time.
Keir Starmer is rattled. The way he responded after Richard Tice's question shows that he is very concerned about the scrutiny that's going to come on him specifically. This is not about the case. This is not about us discussing what's happened with the new charges. This is about him specifically, and trying to make out that anybody who's asking him questions doesn't support the police is for the birds. He's not going to get away with this sort of thing if I'm at the dispatch box.
Presently, Kemi arranged for this term is to essentially pummel Starmer over and over once more, till he learns what the word responsibility implies, no matter how difficult they attempt to twist the rules, deflect the questions, and tinker with the legitimate framework they won't be able to stow away any longer. Starmer will got to confront the results of the appalling plans he's actualizing.
And what we are seeing is a government that is run by people who try and use the legal system to hide. They try and use rules and regulations to duck from the job that they're supposed to be doing. He is still not used to being in government. You know, he calls Rishi Sunak Prime Minister half the time that he's at that dispatch box. He is used to attacking rather than having to defend what he is doing. And we're going to make sure that he is held to account for every single
That's a
decision
few
that he
great
makes.
counsel for Starmer in the event that he cares to tune in. Will Softy at long last listen to the open and get his act straight? At this point, he has no other choice. And we're already seeing Labour attempting to rebrand itself. So there may well be a few trust. One thing is evident, will not endure any more false reverence. And Starmer has to do the work he was chosen for. They ought to be putting the British Open over everything else rather than telling lies and being despicable. Approximately. It's the solution to all of usually responsibility. Like Kemi, we got to call Starmer out and hold him responsible. And that's something you'll offer assistance with by enjoying the video and subscribing to the channel.